much, Constantino. Yes, it is difficult to be the next speaker after the mayor of Astypalea. However, last year I went to Astypalea, haven't been there for a lot of years, so I can say that those are the reality. Those are not just a video. I was impressed by all those efforts. The last night I am in Livadi and I think that I will lose my ship, but I used the app and an electrical car came and picked me up with a driver by the municipality and I enjoyed the ride. So this is not something that concerns the future, it is an issue of the present. I think that I was expected to discuss circular economy, but we have discussed a lot of those issues, and I'm not an expert in circular economy, but since Caterina, Enrico, and I have discussed that this Eco Week should come under the framework of the European Climate Pact, and we have already mentioned the aspect of civil society and of public awareness, I wanted to start my speech by continuing what we have started saying before with analysis on how planning needs or planning will be successful if on the first point we will include all the stakeholders. So I will make a short comment on the circular economy later, but right now I want to talk about Climate Pact and the Green Week of the European Union. We want to try and break the silos. And if you allow me, usually we discuss, we talk, we act in our own bubble. And therefore there is a kind of introversion that it is not easy to overcome. Even if we are open and new technologies and in that post-pandemic area help us connect with each other. Nevertheless, since communication channels are diverse and the language and the terminology are different, a lot of times it is difficult to break those silos. For a lot of years, its sector has been organizing exchange with the same people. When we have started presenting the sustainable development goals, we had all those kinds of different meetings comprising only of people with the same ideas and the same background. However, right now what we have been trying to promote is to adopt this quadruple helix principle, which means that you should include people from the academia, since they have the knowledge and the know-how. One should include policy makers, and more specifically local administration representatives, people from the private sector, since we want our economy to have a different approach, and of course representatives of the civil society. Nevertheless, even if one manages to include all those stakeholders, there is still an issue. Civil society, and I can speak on their behalf because I work on this sector, civil society often discuss on how we should implement programs, how one can go to Brussels and engage there with the European Commission, and even ourselves, even the civil society, should ask this question. So right now there is no program whatsoever that does not make the policymaker or that to bring the civil society in order to plan all together what is going to happen in the future. The goal has already been achieved if one manages to discuss with all stakeholders. And when it comes to my own personal experience, it was very difficult to achieve that. We don't really know how to start this participatory process. And I have been thinking that earlier because this project of 100 climate neutral cities with the 6 Greek cities, Kozani, Kalamata, Ioannina, Trikala, Athens and Thessaloniki, let us imagine that there is a municipality trying really hard with, of course, with great support to achieve this goal. Imagine how this is a participatory effort, a collaboratory effort, and the citizens should support it. So, having said that, I want to discuss the European Climate Pact that up to a point tries to resolve this issue. I have been the national coordinator for Greece for the European Climate Pact, that in reality it is a program of the European Green Deal. And it is actually an effort to include citizens in policy making, in planning. It is a pilot project for this effort. Let me say a few words about the background of this program. Firstly, we had a declaration of the President of the Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, when she presented the European Green Deal, and she said that nevertheless, no policy will succeed without the participation and the understanding of the citizens. And the second fact is the declaration of Franz Timmermans, who is the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, who is responsible for the EU Green Deal implementation, and European Climate Pact is its own project, its own child, so to say. He has been mentioning the following. In 2018 and 2019, all around Europe, we had new people who demonstrated and asked for specific changes when it comes to climate action. In Greece, we haven't experienced that, but those of us who traveled abroad, in all great European cities, we had strikes, demonstrations from young pupils and young students who demonstrated for climate action right now. And they also criticized the civil society because they have said that also civil society is part of the so-called system of the status quo, and young people had an existential crisis, so to say. They have said that how can I live in that future? My generation will face problems due to your behavior. And this is why young women mainly lead those demonstrations and those movements. So kids really demonstrated, and kids went on strike and asked for changes. And young people are the citizens of tomorrow. Young people are also consumers and voters. Okay, let us not forget this. And this is discussed openly. So that intervention was very important, and this is something that informed their plans on the European Green Deal and the European Climate Pact. So, according to Timmerman, we need to find a way through this European Climate Pact to engage citizens in policy making. So, according to the European Climate Pact, every program should strive to be open, should strive to engage representatives of the academia, representatives from the local administration, and to bring also businesses into the discussion, and all those things should be implemented by citizens. So, every policy should be disseminated or should be shaped also with the help of the civil society. They have invited citizens to, as private citizens, to become ambassadors and mediators and to propose topics for discussions. So any European citizen could become an ambassador by disseminating, for example, the idea of Astipala in another municipality, and they did that by having the auspices and working under the umbrella of the European Commission. We will not see the changes that we want if we don't have the endorsement of the civil society. However, it is rather difficult for us citizens to accept the necessary changes, because we're talking about painful changes. So this green transition, that it is achievable, that will come rather quickly, how are we going to make it also fair? How are we going to have a fair green transition? This is the goal of the European Climate Pact. Daphne is also part of that network. We will try to find a way in order to continue that work in the near future. Today, I have asked the mayor how easy it is for the residents, for the citizens of the island, not only to understand those issues, but to co-shape those policies. In the structured consultations that we have organized, where we discussed policies by the European Union, and we tried to translate it into a simple language, since we may be familiar with that lingo, but we forget that citizens are not familiar with those terms. So after that translation, so to say, we have organized consultations all around Europe, and the results have been more or less the same in every European country. And this is the second benefit. Apart from including citizens in the process from step one, the second benefit is that since we don't really know what the future may bring, and we believe that we should base our efforts on the existing ideas. But no, this is not the case. We should leave room for new ideas, new proposals, since we should also change our mentality. Last week I have been discussing on how organic crops would be able to replace traditional crops. And most people talk about the meat productivity. The first thing is, however, is to discuss it with the citizens and say that it is not only a matter of achieving the same quantities of meat, we should learn to eat less meat. And also, it is not only to introduce electric cars, it is to try and imagine or to try and adopt a new approach and say, I will go to Astipala without my own vehicle. So we should give room to new ideas. All the large discussion about the straws, the plastic straws. And nobody said, maybe we do not need straws, or we should try to avoid the use of straws altogether. And the European Commission leaves room for new ideas. So, during the consultation for sustainable transportation, the feedback that Greece gave from 14 cities was the following: that when Europe is talking on public transportation, they mainly talk about the mainland. So the insular transportation is not included in those discussions, are not maybe the priority of the Commission. They cannot imagine the insular special characteristics. So we gave them a lot of food for thought, starting from the point that insular and sea transportation, maritime transportation, is not a priority for the European Union. Let me, Matteo?
And I wanted to get back to the circular economy discussion. Right now, we keep talking about whether citizens are engaged in this process from the beginning. Over the past years, we are used to listening to various buzzwords, etc. And sometimes we make it too technical, and we tend to forget that all those things are addressed to people. And this is why, like I said to Nikos, I really enjoy the fact that the presentation for Astipala focused on people, on individuals. And now the question is whether we focus enough on training. Let me talk briefly about what we did at Organization Earth, where I am a member, how you can convey that message in an experiential way rather than the traditional way. The major success a few years ago was that in order for the organization to talk about circular economy, did the following. They created a vegetable garden in Athens, and you do realize that in some cases there's no need to add or remove anything. We built a vegetable garden and we started inviting children to witness firsthand the way in which nature operates and the way in which nature can help them make the necessary changes. And when we come across difficult to understand concepts such as sustainable development, best practice, etc., are all about. And this project in Athens was a big success, and then we started asking ourselves how we can do that, how we can proliferate this example and upscale it. The Earth Center, that was our own idea of the Experiential Education Center, operates in a privately owned space. At some point we started thinking, where else can we go? If only someone could replicate that. So the next step we took, in collaboration with Kostas Tatsis, and he's also a member of Elefants Eco, we thought of addressing municipalities, asking for abandoned premises, and with private initiative funds transform it into small parks, starting by saying that we can offer green spaces to the municipalities is needed for microclimate, biodiversity reasons, but the ideal plan would be for that to be a meeting point for the citizens. We tried that right now. We have presented 17 such parks over 17 months. Comments from the audience or off the microphone? Yes, a city forest as well. And right now, the municipality of Petroupolis in Athens, we have taken the next step, which is the following. This vegetable garden, in the case of Petroupolis, we will grow vegetables. And this is good because we don't have a landscape architect saying that we're going to plant this tree in this place. We do that in public areas, and sometimes the municipalities don't have the necessary infrastructure, and this should not be the case either. So we clean up these areas and we invite citizens to see how we can make the most out of it. This is a program called Become a Farmer in Your Own Neighborhood. But the truth is that you don't know that, you don't do that in order to offer food to the neighborhood. The point is to see how people can co-shape these premises, these areas, and you try to show them what circular economy is all about. I think that's all I had to say for circular economy. Thank you so much.